So I'm in this WF and I've never been there before. This George Walters guy, as soon as I walked in the room, he came over, introduced himself to me, told me what his name was, knew who I was, got that whole thing together, took me around, introduced everybody else in the room, and to sit beside him at the first meeting so I know what to do and what not to do and when to do it, and he became my hero. He's dead now. And this summer I was speaking at the Iowa, Minnesota district camp of the Wesleyan church, and his wife was there, an old woman now. I told her that story then, of how impressed I was by that he welcomed a stranger, showed unusual kindness. These folks in Malta, they showed unusual kindness in the face of a really tough situation. The people who showed up to help women and Far Eastern stay home, no doubt about that. Home was warm and dry. The beach was wet and stormy. Showed unusual kindness. These are not controlled by the unpleasant circumstances around them, but controlled by the principle of needing to respond to an obvious need. They showed unusual kindness without any hope or promise of receiving any kind of benefit in return. And they showed unusual kindness to people who were in all likelihood from a totally different cultural group and probably didn't speak the same language, eat the same foods, or have the same customs. They were just people who needed help. Because they showed unusual kindness, and frankly, quite simply, it was the right thing to do. And so part of my continued prayer for Hillside in the days ahead is that you would continue to be people of the UK. No, I don't mean the United Kingdom. I mean people. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world was the Pharaoh's Lighthouse in Alexandria, Egypt. It was the tallest building in the world at the time, the equivalent of about a 40-story modern-day building. It's gone now. but a year or so ago, I stood to the spot where Richmond stood and wondered how many ancient mariners saw its light in the dark. And hope came to life again, once again. And so Hillside, thank you for building fires of warmth in the dark. They're just a wonderful thing about those deals. My wife and I were married in 1965. October 8th, 44 years ago, married up. She deserves a medal. And we were going to go home for Christmas in 1945. No. 1965. I was home for Christmas in 1945, but I don't remember. We lived in Moncton. My mother, who passed over the border for her, was living in Fredericton. And so I was working for a truck stop at the time, so I got off work and we were going to go home for Christmas, but it was snowing. I mean, it was snowing. It was terrible, terrible. So we started for home, and we got up along the St. John River, what was it, kind of highway along Majorville somewhere. And it was blowing and snowing. You couldn't see where you were going. You could not see where you were going. Had about three choices. One is to sit here and try to spend the night here in the car on the side of the road, whatever risk that produced. Another was to go to some nearby house or somewhere, knock on the door, and see whether or not the door was answered by a friendly man, a friendly woman, or a Rottweiler. You kind of had that choice. While we were debating that, some guy who was driving an 18-wheeler, one of those snub-nosed jobs, and he was sitting up by, he could see better, and I heard his air horn back there. And he came and around us. He was going real slow, and he came and around us. And we decided we're going to follow him. If he goes in the river, I guess we're going too. But we're going to follow him. I think he can see where he's going. And so we followed him from where we were to up to Fredericton. And then finally got off there, and ultimately through all the slipping, we weaved our way around in front of my mother's house. It was a small home, it was a humble place. And she didn't have a fireplace either. But there was warmth, and there was welcome, and there was comfort from the cold and the dark in that place. And was I glad to be home. And this isn't about sentiment and survey feelings. It's about an environment of genuine warmth and acceptance and sustenance and open arms. It's about your history of hope in the dark. So I'm going down. You know, 2 minutes and I'll wrap this thing up. One of the advantages of being in a church environment, you can always get up at home, you want the last time. I hope you won't. The New Testament church, ladies and gentlemen, is a safe place. It's a safe place. And as you're sending up signal fires into your community, I hope they're signal fires of health and hope. I have seen signal fires lit by Pharisees that say, clean up and come here from the pulpit. I'm not talking about those kind of fires. I've seen fires lit by narrow, unhappy-looking people that say, think like I think, and make sure you love John Wesley, then come in from the cold. I'm not talking about that either. But I believe you could put a sign outside this church this morning that says, there's a caring congregation here. There's a dedicated pastor here. There are fully devoted followers of Christ here. There are fellow sojourners on the adventure of life here. We are dealers in help and hope. Come on in. The fire is burning warmly here in this place. And there are people in the shadows of this church, ladies and gentlemen, who this year will be igniting their own fires at another time. When people are in trouble often around the world, what do? They light a fire. People who are lost, they'll light a fire, hoping some rescuer will see it. People who are facing wolves in the night, light a fire circle to keep the wolves at bay. People who are trying to attract the attention of those who can help them will light a fire. People who need a change in the circumstances in their lives will light a fire. And there will be people in the shadows of this church, literally and figuratively, who as you face the beginning next years of your history, they'll be lighting fires around you saying, will you come and help us? Will you come and help us? And so thank you for all that you are doing. You people who light fires in the dark. Now if you should happen, with this I'm done, if you should happen in the midst of all this environment, welcoming strangers and changing the surroundings and lighting a fire that warms people around you, if you should happen to be inclined or tempted to strike a match of gossip, not grace, or of judgment, not mercy, or to strike a match that causes horrendous damage or high drama, I say to you this as kindly as I can, don't burn your fingers. Once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us because it was raining and cold. Thank you for being from